school wrestling, high school cross country, track and field, friends that are running businesses and doing great things. And I know Jimmy has a connection with you, and we've been fans from the beginning of MMA and those sorts of
Wrestling in high
things.
school.
And so there was a lady, her name is, let's see if it rings a bell to you.
Lauren.
Um,
Cinquegrana?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. That's
So
my
she,
cousin's wife. Yeah.
okay. So she reached out. She's been following us. I guess she knows someone in the Middletown North wrestling community. And I
Hmm.
think found us that way. And so she reached out to us. And so here we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're excited. Jimmy, give me a thumbs up.
Yes, I did, sir. Take it
Sorry, I
away.
didn't catch it. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, howdy and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of Airey Bros Radio. We are here and you are there and you are now rocking with the best. Tonight we're going belly to belly and back to the roots of real self-defense with Professor Joe Ahlert, a Jersey Shore OG, fourth degree black belt under Master Renzo Gracie, and one of the earliest East Coast MMA fighters. You all know why we do this. This is for the athletes, families, and martial artists looking to find their tribe and keep the tradition alive. But before we get rolling, you all know the drill. Hammer that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to Airey Bros on YouTube. Drop a comment. Every review, and share helps us grow and give back to the sports we love. Follow us on Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. And as always, this episode is fueled by Black Sheep Endurance for all your ultra marathon and nutrition coaching needs. Now, on to tonight's guest. Professor Joe Ahlert has been training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu since 1993, before the very first UFC ever took place. He started his journey at just 13 years old, training under Royce and Rorion Gracie. He earned his blue belt from Royler Gracie and trained extensively with John Danaher and received his black belt from Master Renzo Gracie himself. Joe is now a fourth degree black belt with nearly 30 years of coaching experience. He's coached dozens of championship athletes and is known for his deep passion for teaching real-world self-defense. He's also the co-founder and partner of Duncan Defense Consultants, based in Monmouth County, New Jersey, specializing in personalized firearm safety and martial arts instruction. Whether it's sport, street, or professional MMA, Joe has seen it all and taught it all. Without further ado, it is an honor and a pleasure to have you with us this evening, Joe. We do greatly appreciate your time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, guys. It's really an honor to be on the show with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're excited to get into it with you. Before we get too deep, we know you got your stuff on the background there, but anything you have coming up, seminars, clinics, anywhere you want us to send the fans, anyone in Monmouth County or Ocean County that's listening that is interested in anything they hear tonight, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so my social media is on Instagram, it's at Joe ABJJ or at Ahlert Jiu Jitsu. Facebook is the same, Joe Ahlert and Ahlert Jiu Jitsu. And my website is ahlertbjj.com. You could find everything you want on there as far as scheduling, pricing. I'm not one of those guys that makes you call up the academy and negotiate and have a car salesman sort of interaction. Man, everything you want to know about training is literally on my website or on my Instagram. And if not, I'm just a phone call away. You'll get everything you want to know out of one phone call with me.
Awesome. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes for you as well. Joe, probably the most important we're going to question we're going to ask you all evening. Is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
Pork roll.
Okay. Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And now the way we like to get things rolling, obviously you've been at it for a very long time. What's your origin story? How did you get into jiu-jitsu? How did that lead you to becoming a professor and teaching it and making it a part of your 30-year career?
Yeah. So, to be honest with you, I hated jiu-jitsu the first time I tried it. I mean, I literally hated it. I was a 12 or 13-year-old kid. I was doing karate, back in those days. I mean, I'm old, man. I'm old now. Back in those days, everything was like, Van Damme movies, Steven Seagal, Karate Kid. So like everything was like jump spin kicks and all this and that, right? So I was really heavily invested in doing Taekwondo and karate. Um, and then in 93, Royce and Rorion Gracie came to New Jersey, of all places. They came to New Jersey from Brazil to put on a seminar about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And at this point, no one in America had really heard of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We had no idea what it was. I'm very, very thankful to my first Taekwondo instructor, Master Raymond Martin, because even though he was such a very strict karate Taekwondo participant, he was open-minded enough, even in the early 90s, to say, hey, let's give this try and see what this is. So our whole school went to go do this seminar with the Gracie brothers. And I trained with Hoist and Horion. I think it might have even been a 2-day seminar. I kind of forget. But we went over just the basics, the stuff that people are still doing now, mount escapes and headlock escapes and this and that. And I have to say, I absolutely hated it. I was 12 or 13. I was 105 pounds, 110 pounds maybe. And I had all these monsters laying on top of me. And I was like, I'm claustrophobic, man. I don't want anything to do with this. Um, but then fast forward a few months, the first UFC came out. And of course, we watched it as a team, as a school. And Hoist went in and literally every single thing he showed us in the seminar is exactly what he did to win his 3 fights in UFC 1. And at that point, it was like a holy crap moment. Like, I need to be doing this because that was just way too easy, right? It looked like he was taking, candy from a baby. So at that point, we started incorporating our Brazilian Jiu Jitsu mixed in with our Taekwondo at that point.
Okay. Now, Joe, I know you said you're old, but when you were a 12 or 13-year-old in 1993, I was a junior in high school. So,
Well, you look
um,
certainly younger than me, so God bless you.
well, I appreciate that. Where in New Jersey are you from?
Keyport. I live in
Keyport.
Keyport. I grew up. I went to high school in Keyport.
Okay. Okay.
I now live in Middletown. I lived in Hazlet. So this area,
Yeah. Okay.
117 on the Parkway. You know how
Yeah.
Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
117.
No doubt. No doubt. Every time I see, I'm down in South Carolina. Every time I see a license plate,
Yeah.
that's the first thing that pops in my head. We actually have a neighbor over here. They just moved here from New Jersey, and that was when I saw them. I was like, "What exit y'all from?"
There you go. There you go. Exactly. Exactly.
So
Yes,
Joe,
sir.
we like to present through lines, and you mentioned Coach Martin or Mr. Martin,
Hmm.
and I, as a young buck, he might have choked me out once or twice when he was probably in his 60s at that time. But you and I met at Mr. Dunn's school, where
Yes.
Mr. Martin would go and train, and shout out to Freddie Potter. He took me up to your school back in the day. And
Yes.
you and I trained for a little bit there man, 2006, I believe.
That sounds about
Um,
right.
yeah, and I was going through things in my head. I was like, man, I think we saw Stone Sour, Corn, and the Deftones at the PNC Bank Arts Center at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I totally
Yeah.
forgot about that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. So, Lauren, your cousin's wife, she follows us because I believe her son wrestles from Old Town North and said,
Yep.
"Hey, you need to hit up Joe Ahlert." It's like, well, that's done. That's going to be an easy conversation because Joe's the man. So Joe, what point did you get into coaching?
Actually, early on, to be honest with you, because um, so listen, things are completely different now how they were back in the 90s, right? And if you give me just like a minute or two to describe that, because that's something that's important that people don't understand now that train, okay? I was a white belt in jiu-jitsu for 5 years. I got my blue belt in 1998. So 5 years I was a white belt. And then I got my purple belt in 2003 from John Danaher. So that's another 5 years, right? Back then, things were much, much different. Um, if you were a blue belt, a purple belt, or God forbid, a brown belt, I remember when we were like, Matt Serra's a brown belt. Like, oh my, he must be a god. You know what I mean? Like, we couldn't imagine someone being that good because it wasn't like now where, within a year, you're going to get a blue belt no matter what. You show up to enough classes, you're going to get your purple belt. Some schools. I don't really operate that way, but belts are a little bit easier given out now. We could agree, So back in those days, I was still a blue belt, but I had 5 years experience, and I started coaching and teaching even after the 5 to 6 year mark is when I started to, because I took it extremely seriously. To me, once I found jujitsu, it kind of just really became in my blood. It was like It was like my DNA. It was like I didn't know I was looking for it at such a young age. I found it, and it was everything that I just wanted. I dreamed of. I mean, it's to the part of it was so corny. Like before I went to school in the morning, I would do like just a 20-30 minute like solo jujitsu shadow jujitsu routine, which doesn't even make sense, like you don't really have a partner, but I was so dedicated to doing anything I could do that would make me better at jiu-jitsu. I did it literally every day since the day I started. And honestly, until this day, till right now, like I'm all banged up from last night. We were training hard. We're doing jiu-jitsu in my gym. We're doing Muay Thai. I was getting after it, 44 years old. But I always have that mentality of like, man, you should always be better. After all these years, I don't think I'm anybody. I really don't. I think I'm just some guy who just didn't quit. But I don't think I have any crazy physical abilities or talents or anything like that. Like whatever I did, I tell my students, you certainly can do because I'm nothing special. I'm just someone who never quit and I stayed on it. And if you're dedicated to something, I don't care who you are, you can be great at it. It's just a matter of how much do you want to put into it.
So you mentioned that 5 years to get the blue belt, and nowadays it's a little bit quicker, and people are a little bit more entitled to, hey, I've been here for a year, maybe a year and a half. I want that blue belt. What is your mindset on that? Because I was having a conversation with someone, um, wrestlers are a little bit more entitled. We think, oh, I can go in, I can take everyone down, like I can stop their, why aren't I a blue belt, or I can take down that brown belt. But I know after putting in some time that you might be able to beat someone who is a blue belt or a purple belt, but you might not be that, right? Or you might not be able to, someone comes into your school from another school and they're going right through your guard, right? Or you can't pass their guard. Like, well, you're probably not a purple belt or a blue belt at that
Hmm.
point.
Hmm.
So what's your mindset and how do you explain that to people?
So there's two different things in my mind. There's physical ability and then there's technical ability, right? So you can have a wrestler who wrestled his entire life and is amazing. Don't get me wrong, wrestling is amazing. Amazing base for MMA, amazing base for jiu-jitsu, amazing base for life. I mean, I can't speak high enough about wrestling. It's one regret that I had that I wish I had wrestled more. I wish I wrestled in high school. I wrestled for 6 weeks. I broke my collarbone, and then I said I'm not doing it anymore because it's interfering with my jiu-jitsu. I'm getting hurt. I did this for 6 weeks. I got hurt. Wasn't until after high school I went down to the Shore Thing and wrestled with Vinny for a little bit before my MMA fights and stuff like that. Um, but so what I would say about that is, yes, you can come in and give some guys a hard time, but you're doing it off of your physical ability. You don't know exactly what you're doing. So until you have that technical ability, because I'm very, very big on technique and I'm like an extreme tactician. I'm very, very scientific with jiu-jitsu. Nothing that I teach or do is just random. Everything is very specific and dialed in. So if you don't know exactly what you're doing, but you're surviving, that's good. You have a good base and you have a potential future, but are you going and submitting people? So if in the words of John Danaher, in wrestling, the ultimate goal is to pin somebody. In boxing, it's to knock somebody out. In jiu-jitsu, it's to submit somebody. So my system, I'm sorry for the lack of the correct word, how I judge where you are in jiu-jitsu is, yes, you might have lasted with a guy who's better than you, but did you submit him? And do you have the ability to submit him? Right? So um outside of that, I also say this. I have some really tough wrestlers that come in and I say, hey, you know what? If you wanted to go to a tournament in 2 weeks, you're absolutely right. I would just have you doing double legs, single legs, take the guy down, work in the point system, work on really hard on passing the guard, trying to get to the back, keeping the back, right? But if you're my student and you want to be good at jiu-jitsu, the first thing I'm going to have you do is work your guard. You're already tough on top. You already have that system. I'm not trying to make you good at what you're already good at. The job of a good coach and instructor is to make you good at the things you're not good at, the things you don't have natural ability or natural talent at, right? So when my wrestlers come in, I love it. It's great because I know that they can succeed in a very short amount of time, but they're going to be put into doing a lot of things that's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning. because you can't just do what you're comfortable with all the time, or you're not really growing. You're just kind of feeding on to what you're already good at. Um, so the thing, a good coach to me is going to teach you things that you're not naturally good at and force that upon you until the balance starts to balance out a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, with the wrestlers that you're getting to coming in, are they currently wrestling, or are they on the back end after like high school or college and are looking kind of get that still that training fix and maybe that competitive edge, and so they've transitioned? Or do you have like current high school kids that are wrestling that are kind of cross training and using a different martial art to help them for the wrestling,
Mhm.
or
Yes,
both?
so honestly, I have both.
Yeah.
I have both. I noticed that the kids that are still wrestling, like they're still in school, their commitment is more to wrestling, which it should be. And I understand that, especially with the guys that are really there to, they're trying to be successful in wrestling, right? Like, because Raritan's near me, Middletown
Hmm.
North, these guys, they're no joke, right? So wrestling is number one to them, and then maybe on the off season or in the summertime they come and train. But I also do have a lot of guys who wrestled when they were in high school, and then now they're working, regular jobs, and they want that competitiveness again. They want that like that sort of purpose. So I have one of my students now, Darnell, who wrestled for Keyport High School. He's only been training with me just for a few months, and he's picking up very, very, very quick. And I took him he wanted to compete right away because he's like, man, I got to get back in that scene. I need that. I kind of feel that hunger. And he's like a light heavyweight, and he for some reason he keep wanting to go in like ultra heavyweight division, like well above his division. And so far he's swept both divisions. He's won all of his matches, and by submission no less. So uh, I do have those guys that are ex-wrestlers that just are looking for that. I got to get in shape again. I miss that competitiveness. I miss that edge. I need something that's going to push me again because I feel like I'm just kind of you know,
Yeah,
just going to work every day and that's it.
sure. Yeah, no doubt. I would take a step back too with that first 5 years where you're going from white belt working to get your blue belt. Is that a thing where, because it's so new and there's not much going on in terms of schools as it is now, were you going into the city to train and do those sorts of things?
Yes, absolutely. So my
Yeah.
background there is so we started originally under Hoyler Gracie. He was my original coach, professor, outside of Mr. Martin, who, Mr. Martin, Hoyler Gracie would come to the States, and he would come to his school. So he had a place in Pennsylvania. He was teaching at Philly. He would come to us. And then we would take the knowledge that he taught us as so often as he could. And then we would just train that like crazy and just try to get better and better and be super detailed about it. And then that went to like I said, like 1998. That's when Hoyler gave me my blue belt. And honestly, at that point, nothing against Hoyler whatsoever. I think he's one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the world, especially being such a lightweight. The lighter guys are almost always the better tacticianers. The problem was like he lived in Brazil pretty much full time, and we were so far in and so driven that it just wasn't really working out as far as like the amount of time that we were getting to spend with him. And right around that time, we got very, very fortunate because Renzo Gracie asked if he can use our gym to film a video series in, which back then was on VHS still. Um, I forget exactly what it went over, but it was Renzo Gracie and Ricardo Almeida, and they borrowed our gym to film the instructional in. And that's kind of like one of our first interactions with Renzo. And Renzo was like, "Man, why don't you guys come to the city? Come to my academy, come to train, this and that." And it wasn't anything against Hoyler. He was just like, I'm available. I live in New Jersey. Um, so then we went underneath Henzo and have been since, right? So that was about 99. So yes, at that point, I was going into his first academy that was over the methadone clinic. I guess every people that have been there, they know, you took that
Yeah.
elevator up and you're sitting in there with a bunch of junkies, and it's more dangerous on the way up to the school than actually when you're in there fighting. Um, but yeah, since then, I trained there, and that's when I first met John Danaher in 2000. I did my first private lesson with John Danaher in 2000. because one of my students or one of my training partners was like, there's this amazing guy, and he submits me from the bottom of side mount, side control. And we're like, that's impossible. What are you talking about? He's like, you gotta go meet this guy. So I went and did a private with John, and he was as good as, obviously, as everybody knows now. It's funny because people didn't really find out about John until like maybe 10 years ago, but we've known him since 2000 at least. So he's always been our little secret ace in the hole. Now everybody has access to him, so everybody talks like John, everyone's saying his lingo, the whole thing. But anyway, yeah, I met John through there, and so yeah, I was going to the city and on Sundays, and then once they moved to the academy on 30th, I was going much more regularly to John's morning classes, and then I was taking privates with John weekly. And then eventually John started an MMA class that was invite only, which I was very honored to be invited to. And it was literally like a room full of just the best guys in the world. You had Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belts from Brazil. You had judo black belts. You had D1 wrestlers. You had guys that were competing at the highest levels, and everyone's just in a room together with small gloves, no shin pads, and a mouthpiece. And it was a 3 hour practice, and we did it every single Sunday for, man, years. I can't even tell you how long it was. Those were some of the best training days of my life for sure.
Sounds like some of those times at Rhino, huh, Jim? Minus the
Yeah.
Brazilians.
Yeah. So you mentioned no one knew John. He was the secret weapon. Now everyone knows John, and we know all the people that he's coached. Was it any surprise to you, or was it just, man, I can't believe it took this long?
It was surprising in a way because I know John personally and I know him well, obviously for a long time. And John's personality was never one to be in the spotlight. John didn't have like when I first saw John Donner or Danaher John on Instagram, I was like, I can't believe somebody's fucking doing this to John. Like somebody just hacked. I'm sorry if I cursed, sorry.
No, you're
You're
good.
good. You're good.
I'm like, I can't believe someone made a fake account for John. But then once I saw the 4 or 5 paragraphs, I was like, oh, you know what? This actually is John. I can't believe he started at Instagram. That was one of the hardest things for me to accept. I couldn't believe because that's totally opposite of what John always was. He was always this underground mad scientist, didn't really like the spotlight, didn't want to be in the center of attention and whatnot. But I think once he started training GSP and GSP started having all that success, it was kind of hard to hide at that point. And then he had Gary, Eddie Cummings, and then Gordon eventually, obviously. And we had, that crew going on. So at that point, everyone was a stud. Everyone was winning. GSP was winning, Gary was winning, Eddie's winning, Gordon's winning. And it was like, why are they all winning? And it's like, because of John. So it makes sense that he got thrust into the spotlight. Um, Selfishly, it would have been nice if it took a little longer for us old school guys.
So you mentioned Gary, Gordon, and Eddie. Were you, obviously you were at those classes and these killers are coming up. Were you like, who are these guys? Did you see them as blue belts and on the come up and they gradually got better, or all of a sudden were these murderers in class?
So I just want to make one thing clear. I did not train in Manhattan as much as those guys did. They were there
Okay.
every single day, 3 times a day. Like I'm not claiming that was the case. I trained in John Morning's classes and I took privates with them weekly and I would see the guys there and such. But I lived in New Jersey and I had my own gym here, so it wasn't like, I had a full-time job, right? So it's like it was a little different. But the out of those Danaher Death Squad. I was closest with Eddie for sure. And man, to this day, I've never Eddie Cummings was an amazing jiu-jitsu practitioner. Still is. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing now. I know he had the falling out with the team and such, but he was someone that I just at blue belt and purple belt level, and I was a higher belt than him. At blue belt and purple belt level, that guy was just he could just pretty much do what he wants to. I've witnessed him. I won't name names, but there was Brazilian world champions that come in because in Renzo's in the city, it's just a melting pot. So whoever's in New York City, they pop by. And I witnessed Eddie tap a world champion, a very very big name, 4 or 5 times in one 5 minute round. I mean, without much effort. It was something special they had going on, especially revolved around the leg game, right? And then Gary actually trained at our gym, and we had Renzo Gracie Homedale. So Gary would come in once in a while because he was training down with Tom DeBlaz in Ocean County. And on Fridays, Gary would come to our gym. So like I knew who he was, but Gary was a very quiet guy. Gordon may have stopped in once or twice, but um, it wasn't until they started training with Danaher like full time that they sort of really came out of their shell and their personalities really came out, and now you have what you have. But it's no surprise to me because literally John is the secret to this stuff. It's amazing the way that he can break things down and the way he displays it to everybody. And if you're serious about it, you can be just as good as anybody else under John. There's killers under John that people don't know about. Brian Glick. Brian Glick is one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners I've ever grappled with. That guy is so knowledgeable, and there's a bunch like him. There's a bunch like him, that we've learned from John. We weren't competitors, so maybe we don't have the name, but we have the knowledge and the technical teaching ability. And to me, that's more important. To me, if you can make champions, if you're a champion yourself, that's awesome, right? But the mark of a great instructor or coach to me has always been how good can you make the people around you? And not just one person, but can you make champions out of all people around you? John certainly has done that. I always strive to do that. I've had people become very good in short amount of time, become champions in MMA, become world champions in jiu-jitsu. My mark of a good instructor is not what belt is on the wall behind you bragging to your students. It's how good can you make your students in a short amount of time, and uh, how much can they absorb of the information you're giving, right? Because otherwise they could just go on YouTube.
Yeah, that never works out well. I've done a couple weightlifting things like that.
Unfortunately, man, not to sound I'm not talking crap about anybody, but like there's a lot of people that teach off of YouTube still to this
Yeah.
day. It's incredible. It's like, and they're black belts apparently, you know. Um, to me, it's a never-ending process. If you're a black belt, that doesn't mean the game's over. That means you just showed up enough. At this day and age, you showed up enough to get a black belt. But the learning process doesn't end. It shouldn't end in anything.
Yeah.
Like I'm training Muay Thai for quite a long time myself with a guy. I have Greg Mahovich. He's from Belarus, a Russian Muay Thai champion. Amazing martial artist. Black belt in judo, black belt in jiu-jitsu, the highest you could be, whatever in Muay Thai. Uh, Weapons, knife fighting, sniper rifle, pistol shooting. I mean, me and him are very similar, but he's just like the most amazing martial artist I ever met. And he luckily teaches for me on Tuesday nights. He does my Muay Thai program. And every single class on Tuesdays, I'm there like just like a white belt. I'm trying to like gain as much knowledge as I can from that guy and still get my butt whooped from him, at 44 years old, because I'm just not satisfied. Like, you should never be satisfied no matter what level you achieve. There's always something to learn and always something to be good at. If you're good at one thing, that's awesome. Cool. You're good at that one thing, and congratulations. Most people won't even do that. But if you could be great at a bunch of things and be able to teach people more, I feel like your value is higher.
I think there's a context to being in person and getting the feel. You mentioned Eddie Cummins, and when I went back after I got my blue belt and we're training with you guys again, everyone was doing leg locks. I was like, oh, man,
Hmm.
I hate these leg locks. I gotta go to California and learn the truck and learn all the 10th Planet stuff. And when I went out there, they were all doing
Yes.
leg locks to try to compete with the Danaher guys. Like, I moved all the way across country. But my point of saying all that is for years I used to watch, the Eddie Bravo stuff on his channel, and I really didn't get comprehension for that stuff till I went and got hands-on and said, "Oh, this isn't working for you because you're doing this wrong or you're doing
Hmm.
that wrong." Like, yeah, you can pick up stuff on YouTube, but you're gonna miss those fine details and the feel of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's nothing like one-on-one instruction, honestly. In my opinion, and probably a lot of old school instructors will tell you the same thing. There's nothing like one-on-one private sessions. And I'm not promoting myself. I do plenty of privates a week. I'm not using this isn't like a plug. Um, I'm saying that from my experience because I was luckily enough to do privates with John for, like 18 years. Um, and I got one-on-one experience with him that entire time. I got to feel exactly what he was saying and doing. It wasn't like I was just watching on an instructional. Everybody learns from instructionals now, and it's an easy way out, and they should, don't get me wrong. It's available criteria. Use it. But it's not the same as learning from the source, by far. It's certainly not the same by learning from the source. So I agree with you 100% there. Yeah.
Joe, we're talking about some of the top high level guys. A lot of them are competing and that sort of stuff. But from your perspective as an instructor, how many people are coming to you, coming in the door, and they're telling you they want to compete versus people coming in and say, "Hey, I just want to be able to defend myself or defend my family or be ready just in case something goes sideways and I can protect myself or the people around me."
That fantastic question. Yes. So there's a couple facets to that. Most jujitsu gyms, 5 to 10% want to be competitors, and that's in almost every single gym. Most people are there because they want to get in shape, they want to learn something to defend themselves, and they kind of like the camaraderie and the brotherhood, and it's, they get out of the house, and it's their time. I've found that to be true over many, many decades and many, many schools. 5 to 10% want to compete. Um, Now, I could go off on a tangent about that because many schools only cater to their competitors. And that's become somewhat of a problem because the other 90% of your school is just a number to a lot of people. Because what instructors want to do, they want to say, well, I have a champion in this, I have this guy, I have that guy. Look at all these titles on the wall. But then they have a bunch of students that are just feel like numbers and never really get the attention. I hear that quite often with people that come in my gym. They say, you know, I don't want to be a competitor, but I want the attention, right? So that's something I'm really, really passionate about because in my gym, I have a completely different structure, the way that I teach white belts. Um, my structure with white belts is I don't have a fundamental program where nowadays you have a fundamental program. You have white belts come into a gym, and for 3 months, maybe more, they practice the same 8 classes. That's all they're allowed to do. And they are not allowed to do any live training and not have any resistance. It's just simply just practice these moves over and over. Then after that, they're allowed to go to the next level program where they're starting to learn a little bit more jiu-jitsu moves, but they're only allowed to do guard pass live for 6 months until they get their blue belt. Now, when you're a blue belt, now you're allowed to live train. So you just went a whole year and you never had really anyone resisting you. You really never had a resisting partner. So to me, I'm like, you could be training 6, 8 months and walk out to your car in the parking lot and get your ass handed to you because you weren't allowed to do any resistance training. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So my approach is, and this is going to go into the one of the questions you had. Sorry, I'm not going off. My approach is I want my students to be good as fast as they can, and on day one, they're learning things that are essential and that are going to stick with them forever. Every single white belt in my gym trains with a black belt every single night. And not only trains with a black belt, but it learns with them. It's not like in a lot of gyms, if a black belt ever runs into a white belt, he just wipes the floor with them, right? That is the complete opposite of my theory and what we do in my gym. I have multitude of black belts that are high level, they come from the same lineage as me. And every single day, you're a white belt, you're going to train and learn from one of my black belts. We're going to cycle the room and we're going to make sure that we go with everybody. And you're learning from black belts right off the bat. You're not having, some blue belt or purple belt teach your fundamental class, right? And that goes into your next question because I had many people that come into the gym, they like my gym because it's also specific to not just jujitsu. They say, I want to learn how to defend myself. These times are getting crazy. There's, stabbing, shootings around my area. We live in a nice area. There's break-ins left and right trying to, steal people's cars and find car keys and all this kind of stuff. So people want real world, self-defense. And that's the gear of my gym. That's the theme of my gym because it is a jiu-jitsu school for sure. But I'm doing jiu-jitsu 33 years. I will sit here and tell you still that jiu-jitsu is not the only answer to every problem that you might run into. And that can be controversial to a lot of guys that run jiu-jitsu schools, but it's a truth. I'm sorry, because I just been around enough. Um, if you look at someone who has a knife, is it ever good to fight somebody with a knife? No. Zero. I don't care how much you've trained. The first thing you should do is turn around and run as fast as you can. Get out of there. Dude, no lie. I don't care who you are. But there's limitations to that, right? You're on a subway or you turn around and there's nowhere to run and somebody has a knife and they're attacking you in New York City, right? I still work in New York City. I have a full-time job besides all the stuff that I do. There's nowhere to run. Okay. Or you're with your family and you need to get in front of your family and brush them out of there, tell them to take off, and you got to stand there as a man and take that brunt on so your family survives. So you need a plan. We do combatives in my gym. We do combatives. We do knife disarming. We do firearms disarming, right? We do Muay Thai. We do MMA. I have a top MMA fighter right now, Paul Capaldo. He's 12-0 in MMA. He's going to be in the UFC. This is a complete stud. He runs my MMA program. Um, I have, like I said, I have Greg doing Muay Thai. We have Cody Mooney teaching wrestling. He's been doing wrestling in my gym, right? So I want my students to have a bit of everything. Is jiu-jitsu the best if you only had one? Yes. But does it cover all things? It doesn't. Actually, traditional jiu-jitsu is actually complete opposite of what you want to do if someone ever had a knife. It's actually completely contradictory to what you would want to do. And this isn't to go like, hokey Wing Chun stuff, but it's like you just need a plan, right? Because like you mentioned, I run I do the training for Duncan Defense Consultants, which is firearms instruction. Well, now concealed carry is so popular in New Jersey. Now you have a gun on you. That changes a fight completely. If you're concealed carrying and you guys are fighting over your gun, that's different than doing a jiu-jitsu match or your butt scooting. It's not even close. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I could go on about that forever, but my theme in my gym is a full self-defense gym. You're going to learn jiu-jitsu at the highest level, but you're going to learn Muay Thai, MMA, combatives, wrestling, and everything else that's going to make you a complete martial artist. Again, you can be good at one thing, that's awesome. But how about we be great at a lot of things?
Yeah, definitely. That's what Jimmy and I dabbled in the CrossFit world, and we have a kind of a criteria of, because not all CrossFit gyms are different. Not all CrossFit gyms are created equally, and I'm sure that's the
Sure.
same thing for jujitsu and martial arts schools. For people who maybe aren't near you or in Ocean or Monmouth County, what's maybe some questions you should ask going in the door, and or like a criteria of finding better jujitsu or martial arts gyms in your area if you're not in New Jersey or in Monmouth County?
Um, that's kind of a tough question. I would say your lineage is probably a big thing if you're looking into joining a school. Um, See where they learn from and see if they're actually, as instructors, still trying to progress and still trying to learn, not learning off the internet and not just writing off someone else's name that might be on the building. Like, who are you actually, and how is your level of instruction? To me, it's all about instruction. Like, how big is your encyclopedia, right? And then how well can you pass that on to your students that they're going to actually retain it? That's the marks for me. So you're in a gym and the material just keeps getting recycled and recycled and but the instructor is really, really nice. That's cool. It's great. But my experience has been people that would join jiu-jitsu want to get good
Hmm.
because it's a problem solving it's a puzzle. It's not like you're there and I'm just gonna, see how much I could bench press today compared to how much I did yesterday. It's a consistent problem solving puzzle. I rolled with this guy last night and he passed my guard using a knee slice that I've never seen before. So now I go home and I'm like, how am I gonna stop that knee slice? Because if I can't figure out how he passed, he's gonna do that forever now. So now I got to figure out the next night I go in, I'm going to try to do something different to stop that. And now he's going to say, shit, he stopped my knee slice. So now I'm going to fake a knee slice, use a bullfight, go on the outside. And now I got to say, well, how am I going to stop that? It's never ending. If you're just an instructor who just stands in front of the class and tells the guys to do a 35-minute warm up, roll around for a couple times, teach one or two moves, you know, that's you as the student got to decide, are you improving? What rate are you improving at? And, you know, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
Joe, I appreciate the fact that I could tell, obviously, you were coaching for jiu-jitsu for as long as you were, but during that time you were coaching at other people's schools, and I could tell that you were, all right, when I open my school, we're gonna focus on this. We're gonna do this. We're not gonna just focus on competition. And I think that is so important because I think that can be a hindrance for people. Like I don't want to compete. I just want to come here. I just want to be fit, and it can be intimidating, right? Where it's like, well, I'm getting my ass kicked in here every day. Why would I want to pay to get my ass kicked in public in front of people? Like that's embarrassing. So I can appreciate that, and I can really appreciate the competitive aspect of it because I knew for all the years I trained, even in wrestling, it's always like, well, how am I going to do this in the streets? How am I going to approach this in the street? Because like I don't know, like I can't really strike that good, but I feel like Muay Thai might suit me better in the streets than double leg takedown.
Um, yes and no. We try to adapt. So just to be clear, so at my gym, I teach. We do both. We do self-defense and we do competitive jiu-jitsu because I don't want anyone to feel left out. Um,
Are they
so
separate classes?
no, so what I'll do, I don't want to give too much of my stuff away. No, I'm kidding. So what I'll do a lot of the time is I'm going to go ahead and show a guard pass. Okay. And whatever, let's say it's just for sport. Okay. This is the way we want a guard pass. We don't have to worry about any strikes, anything like that. Okay. But now let's talk about it in an MMA sense. Because I have guys who say, like, hey, I want to fight MMA, or I run an MMA program as well. So, guys, if I was doing this in MMA, these are the considerations that I would take into this while using this type of guard pass. I might have to make a little bit of a change. And now, if it's a street fight, it's completely different because now, is the guy going to kick me in the face? Is he going to kick me in the groin? Is he going to be reaching inside his pocket for a pocket knife? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but more than 50% of the men that I know have a pocket knife in their pocket all the time. And you read stories, and it's very unfortunate cases all the time. BJJ black belt, killed, stabbed to death by a guy, and trying to protect somebody else. And what happens is guys will fight. Everyone has their ego, and they'll fight. But when people start losing and they get scared, they resort to, things that maybe they shouldn't. And they start, pull out a knife, everything changes. You could be mounted on somebody in a perfect mount position, and the guy pulls a knife out and he starts stabbing you in the back, and you have no idea what's even going on because you're like, hey, I trained 20 years and I'm mounted on this guy. This is great. And next thing you know, you're bleeding out. Like so I take into considerations like, hey, this is for our sport, jujitsu competition guys. If we're talking about street self-defense, we have to take this into account, into effect, because this is real world, right? Um, I just want to mention that through my firearms instruction and all the training and such that I do there, I've made really, really good contacts and experiences with a lot of really elite forces and soldiers and such down in like West Virginia, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida. So I'll go down there and they run me like crazy on firearms, like rifle, pistol, shotgun, transitioning, like do it like just unfortunately as a civilian I get to do this stuff that really only the military practices. So I'm very, very fortunate in that. And then on the other side, I barter with my jiu-jitsu and my unarmed combat defense that I teach them. So like the stuff that I'm showing isn't, like I said, don't get it confused with like some hokey, like, oh, he teaches weapons defense, like it's like 1997. Like what I teach is the same things that the guys in the military or law enforcement or such are using and teaching to them as well. So it's like it's very vetted things that we're doing. It's not just like I just made it up on my own. You know what I'm saying? Like our program is very, very vetted in every sense of the word.
Well,
And
Joe,
did it?
sorry, Rich, just one thing. Joe, I've trained with you. I know there's nothing that you do that's hokey. I've got a buddy that I've been trying to get to go to your school for years now. Anyone in the area, I always suggest go train with Joe Ahlert. So we
Thank
know
you.
there's nothing hokey going on at Ahlert Jiu Jitsu.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Joe, when did the firearms come into it for you?
Well, so I got my first gun in 2006. I was working as a union electrician in New Jersey. The guy I was working with, he was a competitive shooter, and he was like, "Oh, you got a pistol? You got a gun?" He's like, "Hey, I'm shooting a match in 2 weeks. You should come shoot a competition with me." And I'm like, "Man, I don't even know how to load the magazine yet. What are you talking about?" He goes, "Oh, come train with me once or twice and go shoot the match with me." And I was like, "Okay." So I went and trained with him once or twice. He showed me just very basic things. And I went and I shot the competition. And it's not some crazy story. I didn't win or anything like that. But I did get middle of the road because I just was naturally a decent shot. But what really, really struck me about firearms and watching these competitors was the level of expertise they had in shooting. Because I'm coming from a jiu-jitsu mindset, right? So I'm watching these guys and I'm like, how are they doing this so fast? How is their draw so fast? How is their reloads so good? How are they getting target acquisition? Like I looked at it and I said, I got to delve into that world. So as I was doing jiu-jitsu and all this stuff, I've also been very, very deep into trying to get into competitive shooting, traveling to shooting schools all across the country and such. And then that turned into when I started teaching law enforcement unarmed combat, that turned into me running into a lot of law enforcement military. And then it switched to a little bit of more like defensive or combat shooting. So my shooting background is like half competitive shooting, and then the other half is like combat or defensive shooting is what they call it. Um, but I've been doing that since 2006. And it's something I really, really, really enjoy. The whole reason we started Duncan Defense Consultants, me and my partner Mike Duncan, he's a retired Hazlet cop. He was a police officer for over 20 years. He got injured on the job, didn't want to retire, but he was forced to. Once concealed carry became legal in New Jersey, everyone and their mother started buying firearms. And it was around like COVID and the riots that were going on and such. And there was people were scared. I mean, there was no guns on any shelves, which was good for business. But then we were looking at it like, man, these people have no
No
training at
idea.
all,
Yeah.
like zero. And that's scary. That's scary. So we started a whole training. First off, we started with just safety classes and safety training, just to teach people the safety aspect of firearms in their home, out on the range, whatever the case may be. Then it got into more of the fundamentals of marksmanship training, right? Stance, grip, sight alignment, trigger control, follow through, working all those with people. Then it turned into us becoming crazy booked with doing safety classes, concealed carry classes, live fire, range instruction. So we do lessons out on our range. We have our own private range, where we're teaching people pistol, rifle, shotgun, transitions, all that stuff. But it's really centered around safety because a lot of people, it's what still blows my mind is like a lot of people are like, hey, I got a gun. If someone breaks in my house, I'm good. And that's like the furthest thing from the truth, man. Like you need to rep, especially with firearms. You need to be up on that gun. You need to be up on practicing your firearms over and over again, even if it's just dry fire, because the more you have that firearm in your hand, the more it just becomes part of you. To think you're going to whip up some plan and be Rambo in the middle of the night, or a concealed carry holder. Hey, I got my concealed carry, and I have a gun on me all the time now, walking around in public 24/7 in a 365-degree environment. And all of a sudden, he's going to pull out a gun and shoot someone one day, like, and he never practices or doesn't even dry fire. I'm scared for me and my family. Like, I don't want some guy shooting rounds off in ShopRite parking lot. Like you need to get training, and we're very, very stringent, very, very strict and serious about that. If you're going to carry a firearm, you need to train. There's no way about it. It's because what we see on the range, people they have to come train with us to understand. Everybody just watches movies and like point and shoot, and it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So when I went to that competition real quick, I saw guys were being so efficient and so smart and so scientific about their shooting. I really delved into the world to become like the best possible shooter. So I took the jiu-jitsu mindset, brought that into firearms, and I became firearms instructor and run that as well now.
So with two kids, do you ever sleep?
Dude, like a 4.5-year-old and a 3-year-old, two boys. Jackson's my oldest, Christopher's my youngest. Man, I'll be honest with you, it is the most rewarding and the most important thing in my entire life. Jiu-jitsu and training is very close, but there's nothing like it. And it's challenging, as we know, right? I mean, it is challenging as can be, but you know, it sounds corny, man, but out of everything I do throughout the day, I'm super busy. I'm always trying to better myself and better people around me. But my favorite thing by far is every single night before bed, putting my kids to sleep and teaching them, having a half-hour talk with them laying on their floor, teaching them things that they're going to learn about life one day when I'm not here. And that means more to me than literally anything in the world, you know. Uh, I lost my dad when I was 18, unfortunately. So maybe that's something that lingers with me, but having those heart-to-heart conversations with my children before bed, uh, that's the most important thing to me in the world by far.
That's awesome. Have you got him on the mats yet?
Yeah. So I got them, they're doing a couple combinations, some jabs and low kicks, double leg, single leg, some ground and pound, a couple sweeps and arm bars. It's funny, my older one I actually teach, so he has some ideas of what to do. My younger one is just a madman, just a bully. He just goes in there, he's just a scrapper. I mean, he just naturally picks it up. I don't know what he's doing. I have his little baby dummy in the gym and he just gets off on that thing, just punching the crap out of it. Mounts it, arm bars, chokes. I'm like, the force is strong with this one.
They're like sponges at that age. They just
Oh
latch on to
man,
any kind of information that they can get a hold on. That's their retention too.
it's
Is
so true. And I'm really, really, really wanting to get them into wrestling, obviously.
yeah,
Really, really. So they're like right around the age. They're really gonna get uh Coach Nucci
yep.
from Raritan. I know him for so long. We're really close. And he's like, man, bring those kids in here. I don't care how old they are. Bring them in. Get them wrestling. Get them on the mat. I'm happy to do that any day of the week, so I'm happy to use that outlet for Nooch. He's a great guy.
Shout out to Coach Nucci.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's awesome.
he's a great resource to have in that department for sure. Joe, I one last one I got for you. You mentioned having a full-time job. You mentioned doing the tactical training. Obviously, you run Ahlert Jiu-Jitsu, and you said one of your biggest attributes is you never quit. You've been doing jiu-jitsu for as long as you've been doing it. Ha what's the discipline? Any advice you have for someone who loves jiu-jitsu but life happens and they're not training, they want to get back on the mat, just to keep at it and manage your time?
Yeah, man. So, there's a lot of my life that people don't know about me, including yourself, Jim. Even during that time that we trained and stuff, I'm not going to get too crazy into it, but I've been unfortunately, I've had very unfortunate situations happen in my life. I've had people that were extremely sick, born with diseases. Around that time, I spent more than half my life trying to keep certain people just alive, and went through major depressions and anxieties. And um, and unfortunately, some of those people passed away, and they were very close to me and to my family and such. So, not to like throw a negative light on it, but there was many opportunities for me to say, I'm going to go a different route or I'm going elsewhere, or I've had all this death in my family and around me and struggling to just go to work or get up every morning, which people would never know about because I don't talk about it. Only that I'm getting older, I'm actually starting to like not be scared to talk about that stuff. It was always embarrassing to me. But anyway, this isn't a therapy session. But I had more than enough reason to not. And I gotta be honest with you, the only thing that kept me going through all the hardships was training, was jujitsu, was the time that I was on the mat because that's the time my mind was blank. That hour to 2 hours, that was my therapy time. That's what allowed me to cope with everything, right? So, um, I don't look at training as like something that I have to force myself to do. I look at it as a blessing and a pleasure. I look at it as, there's there's so many people I know that wish they could be on the mats right now. There is one of my best friends. He had 3 back surgeries. He was my best student. Mike Riccardi. I don't know if you know him. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He hasn't been able to train for like 15 years, and he would give anything to be on a mat one more day. I had a student, Tyler Prescott. He was a newer student. He only trained me for a year and a half. He unfortunately passed away last year at 27 years old, out of the blue. Like, there's so many people that would give anything just to have one more day on the mat. To me, that's enough to be on the mat every day and train. That's I don't need any more than that, you know. Um, Now I understand not everybody has that passion or discipline, but when you truly find the beliefs and you truly find the benefits of jiu-jitsu, where it's not just chokes and arm locks, um, that's when you realize, like, man, this is something that I want to be part of my life. And, it's not a burden. This is something that's I'm very fortunate to do.
Thanks for sharing that with us,
Yeah,
Joe.
I appreciate you
Absolutely.
sharing that. I think that's important because we all go through different struggles and have different things happen to us and are affected by different people in our lives. And sometimes we, like you said, we might feel like we're on an island, or we also might be very stoic about it, and other people think everything, surface face value, everything is good, great, and have no idea what's going on. And so I do appreciate you sharing that. Piggybacking off of that, what's been the key to your longevity of relatively health and staying injury free?
Um, Honestly, this is going to come off the wrong way, but um, probably having a little higher technical ability than my students.
Yeah.
Um, Jiu-jitsu is one
True.
of those things where, like, as long as you're like a little bit better, you could kind of like play it easy and
Hmm.
such. Now, of course, my whole life I didn't do that. Like, especially
Sure.
in the city, especially in John's classes, especially training with John. I mean, I've never got my ass handed to me like that ever. Um, but I wouldn't quit. I just kept at it, you know. I was blessed to not have too many injuries. The only broken bones was through wrestling, like I said, as a sophomore in high school. I had double hernia surgery, 2014. I just had bicep surgery last year. But outside of that, man, I really was fortunate. I kind of listened to my body a little bit, you know. And I think I just got lucky, I really do. Because now, like I said, at 44, I'm still pushing hard, because I still want to be good. I still don't feel like I'm good enough. I still don't feel like I feel like I should be way better than I am for all these years of training. So I still have that hunger inside. Maybe it's going to bite me in the butt one day as now I'm getting older, but uh, I can't quit it. I can't.
Ride it till the wheels fall off.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Live
we only you live
fast,
one
die
time,
young.
man. Like, make the most of it, you know. Who knows what's going to
Absolutely.
happen?
Heck yeah.
Joe, is there anything about Ahlert Jiu Jitsu or Duncan Defense that we haven't covered that you want to cover?
Oh man, that's a good question. I would just say, man, if you're looking for a place to train in around my area, we're a welcoming gym. You're gonna learn, like I said, all aspects of self-defense. It is a jiu-jitsu related gym itself. It's a jiu-jitsu gym first, but we're very big on adding other martial arts and combat sports into it, because I want my students to be full, well-rounded martial artists and be able to defend themselves in any situation that they may run themselves into, especially if they're there with their family. And then, as far as Duncan Defense goes, like, if you're interested in firearms, reach out to Duncan Defense Consultants. It's 2 doors down from my gym. It's a full firearms store, training facility. We have a virtual simulator in there, which the police use for training. So, I mean, there's literally 10,000 scenarios. So, like, you could be standing there in a scenario, and in real time, we're on the computer, and we'll have a guy approach you, and he'll say, "Hey, man, give me some money." And you have to decide, you're like, hey, no, no, leave me alone. And in real time, we can have him pull out a gun or a knife, or he could just pull out his wallet. And you get to decide in a split second, am I supposed to shoot or am I supposed to not shoot, right? And there's thousands and thousands of scenarios like this, that are like really, really awesome, that you don't get to practice anywhere if you're not in law enforcement. And we actually have one. in our shop. So really, really, really cool training aspects and really, really training things that we get to offer in my jiu-jitsu school and in Duncan Defense Consultants. So if you're interested in any of that, please feel free to stop by, reach out, give me a phone call, shoot me a text on Instagram or something like that. I'm more than happy to always answer and meet new people.
Sounds like a real life GTA, a simulator.
It's really awesome. It
Yeah.
really, really is.
Are they wearing like virtual goggles or anything, or is it
No,
just a big
nope.
screen you're
It's a
walking
huge
through? Yeah.
screen. Yep.
Okay, cool.
And outside of all the realism stuff, there's also like target practice. Like, so
Yeah.
we have like guys that shoot like IDPA matches or steel challenge matches. And this simulator has the exact stages set up that are in real life matches at the distances and everything. So the timer goes off, you draw your gun, beep, 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 and you're practicing the same exact way you would practice, but you're not spending any money on ammo. The guns have blowback, so it feels the same, recoil and everything. We have like a Sig Sauer and a Glock pistol, which is kind of the two popular ones. And you're practicing the same exact way you would practice out on the range, but you're not spending a dollar on ammo. You don't have to drive anywhere, and you're just paying for the time to be in the session. And we're in there with you, coaching you along with it. So it's a fantastic way of learning firearms, especially if people are a little nervous to live fire in the beginning.
Yeah, well, quick story. I grew up hunting. Jimmy did it a little bit too, but from freshman year in high school to as an adult, I never really picked up a gun or anything like that. And I was on a work trip and we were down in Atlanta and we had like 5 or 6 hours before we had to catch our flight to go back to California. And the gentleman I was with, we were working and he's like, why don't let's go shoot some guns. And I was like, what? So we went to a gun range in Atlanta, and I was blown away just by the fact that within 15 minutes of walking in the place and putting my ID on the counter, I had a weapon in my hand. But because it's been so long since I had a gun in my hand, he fired first, shot at the target, and then I was reloading the clip. And the first time I was trying to put the bullet in, a gun went off next to me. I like scared the crap out of me. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's the first time you're in those situations, it can be yeah, like you said, you want to be trained for those sorts of things because it's not like, oh, I just have this now, so everything is safe and it's going to work out. Like you definitely need to practice those real world scenarios so that you're ready
absolutely.
and you
Yeah,
can
if I
handle
may
the
touch on that
stress.
just for one
Yeah,
second. Yeah, so I don't really love public ranges
yeah,
for obvious reasons,
hmm,
right? There's a lot of bad habits and mistakes that happen in live range because you just have a whole bunch of people in line and they're shooting their gun like, hey, did you see that shot? Next
yeah.
thing you
It's
know, they're
crazy.
pointing down the whole line, and most of them are amateurs and rookies, and that's okay. But so our range where we do it, it's just one-on-one. When you come out to
Yeah,
train with us, it's literally a one-on-one session. And then to talk about the realism, we set up like we have stages and boards set up at our range where we mock like your bedroom might be, and you could bring your safe, and we have your safe on the table, and it's like, oh, you just heard a noise, so you hit your safe, you take your gun out of your safe, you're gonna manipulate your room the same way your room is set up, and you're gonna go ahead and then make hits on target if necessary, and we time you. How long did it take to get your gun out, to get up and ready, to get your flashlight running, right? So like it's very, very detailed. And like you said, it's not standing on a flat range, just shooting a target. Anybody can do that.
yeah,
That has nothing to do with being in a gunfight, especially concealed carry, or, defending your home for home invasion or something like that. Standing on a flat range, shooting a piece of paper it has nothing to do with it. You can practice your fundamentals like that, but you're not ready for a gunfight. I don't know that you're ever ready for a gunfight, but
sure.
you can be as close as you can be
Yeah,
by
no
training,
doubt, no doubt.
you know. I also want to say my wife's name is on there. It says Kaylee Allard the whole time. Uh, my name is Joe. I go by Joe. I'm a male. So I just want to just throw that out there. I'm not good with this technology stuff, so my wife set it up, and that's the outcome.
Well, we
So
appreciate her
everybody
setting
can
you
make
up.
fun of me all they want.
Joe, you're not the first person who's using the right Zoom, so
Awesome. It's
it's
all
all
good.
all good. One last thing I have to say to you before we get in the final four, because we don't talk every day and we haven't talked in a while, but there's techniques that you showed me that I still remember to this day that kept with me for years and years of training. And one thing that you said to me that was way different for me coming in for wrestling is you said every time you go to a class, write down what you learn in the class, write down your takeaways from the class. Man, I have notebooks and notebooks, and I'm telling you right now, as someone who always had trouble reading his handwriting, spelling and stuff, it helped. It helps me because there was years I would go back and I'd look at something. I'm like, I haven't used that in years, and bring it back into the toolbox, or I would forget a fine detail of something, and I'd go back and I'd be able to remember it and pick it up and like, oh, that's why that's not working for me. So I just want to thank you for that, and I just want to thank you for being cool to an 18-year-old kid who's a bit of a dummy. I appreciate you always being awesome to me and being a great instructor.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Real quick on that. It's super important to make notes. My private students, I require them to have a notebook or to at least have notes in their phone. Okay. Two reasons. One, you don't want to waste your money on the lesson, right? Because we can go over a whole bunch of moves and then we roll, and then you go home and you only think about how the rolling went and you forget all the moves or the detail. And two, you'll never lose like you just said, you'll never lose that material, right? So 5 years from now, you can open that notebook up and be able to do that move. Because when I have notebooks from 2000 with John. I have notebooks like it's like detailed moves that every single private I've done with John. I could probably sell them for like $6 million, right? So I can look back into my notebook from 20 years ago, and the way that I write it down is my right hand grabs his left wrist, my left hand grabs behind his right tricep. I pull across the body. Now like it's very, very detailed, and that's how I have everybody write it down because you'll never lose that technique. You'll not only, so when I teach people, I don't want them just to retain it. I want them to be able to teach it to somebody else. And if you copy that down and you write it down and you have it in your notes and you'll be able to pass it along, that's how I know you fully understand a move. Because not until you become an instructor and try to start teaching people, do you realize what it is to be an instructor, right? Like, do you fully understand the move? Or are you just saying, grab his arm, step over the head and do an arm bar, you know? Um, so that's awesome, Jim. You were always amazing too. You're downplaying yourself. You were a stud right from the get-go, and you gave everybody hell right off the bat. So man, I miss training with you.
Yeah, same. As we're talking about this, I'm like, man, makes going back to New Jersey seem a little bit easier. Rich and I always talk about it, all the coverage we do, and it's like, man, Joe's got a good thing going. And when we get off of here, I'm gonna hit my buddy up who lives right by the school. Big bro, you're blowing it. You gotta go train with Joe. Um, so final four, Rich.
Let's do it.
All right, Joe, are you a coffee drinker?
Yes, but I just started drinking coffee within like the last year and a half, believe it or not.
Wow. It must be all those tasks that you have to do throughout
Yeah,
the day need a little
exactly.
boost. How do you brew your coffee and how do you take it?
I use a Keurig because I'm lazy, and milk and sugar.
All right.
Joe, do you have any daily practices or rituals you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Joe Ahlert?
I'll say it one more time. Do I have?
Do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of yourself?
I wouldn't say a daily ritual, but I try to kick myself on the butt every morning because there's a lot of times I wake up and I'm like, man, I got a lot to do today, and I don't feel like doing half of it. And honestly, my motivation is my kids. Like I'm like they're watching me, and if I'm just a lazy whatever, they're gonna do that. So like my motivation is like, hey, you got people watching you now. Do what you got to do. Yeah.
Joe, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Um, I'm a big music guy. My music is kind of old though. Like a lot of people in my gym, they're like, "What is this? I've never heard this stuff." I'm still listening to the old school stuff.
You still a
Um,
Slipknot guy?
yeah, Slipknot, Tool's my favorite band, old Metallica, which is awesome, man. This morning I'm driving my kid to school. He's 3. We're driving to daycare, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, can you put on Blind by Corn?" And I'm like, "Hey." And my wife was on the radio. My wife was on the phone. She heard it. She's like, "Did he just say Corn?" I'm like, "Yes, he did." And then my other son's like, "Can you play Fade to Black by Metallica?" And I'm like, "What did I do to be this lucky?" Like, I'm so lucky, so blessed.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
Joe, do you get down with Pussifer at all?
I'm not very up on them. I really should be more.
Yeah,
Are they good?
They're all right.
I love them.
Yeah.
Rich
Doesn't
Tur
compare to Tool.
Nah, I
Doesn't even
disagree.
come
So
close.
here's the thing. They're so Pussifer st
Tool, Perfect Circle,
oh, stop.
Pussifer.
No way.
I was
No,
gonna
hey,
say I
so
like Perfect Circle for
Yeah.
sure.
here's the
Totally
thing.
different vibe.
Rich turned me on to Pussifer when a lot of their stuff was like abstract, and they started. I just listened to his audiobook. They started as like a mock band
Hmm.
doing improvs and stuff on Mr. Show, and then he started making music. But if you listen to some of their first albums, they're all over the place. There'll be a good song, and then there's like something really weird, and then there's like a comedy skit. But now I say it as like Pussifer is if Tool did more than like one genre, or just kind of the same. Not that I love Tool,
Yeah.
but I'm a fan of Pussifer.
Okay,
So
cool.
if
Cool.
you haven't listened to any of their new stuff, Rich is saying no. I'm saying dive in.
Give me a song give me a song or an album to try out.
I'll send you stuff. I'm not good with names. I'll send you
Copy
some
that.
stuff.
That was good. Awesome.
Joe, last one we got to close it out. It can be a lighthearted one. Maybe it's some unique food item in New Jersey. Maybe it's a beverage. Maybe it's a stogie. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Um, man, pizza. Um, I lucked out. My gym is literally right next to a pizza place.
Nice.
Um, and pizza's my favorite thing. I eat it more than I should, but I guess I'm burning it off. I'm doing okay so far. But yeah, in between sessions, I'm running in and out of there 3, 4 times a day. Yes, getting eating a ton of pizza.
Do you mix it up or do you just go cheese, plain cheese?
Well, so this is funny. So I've never been a guy to lift weights or anything like that. I've been like the Marcelo Garcia approach, where he's always just been like, you be a tactician. You just want to be as technical as possible. And every time I went to the gym, I'm like, I could be on the mat right now learning jujitsu. But just in the past few months, I started like actually trying to lift weights a little bit in my gym because I feel like I heard it's good for getting older and such and such. So now when I go get pizza, I make sure I get like sausage or something so I have a little protein on it, you know?
There you go.
I get a little protein on.
It's healthy.
I'll get a chicken parm slice, you know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
okay.
yeah, so I get some protein.
Awesome.
That's true, actually. That's what I do now.
Okay. What's the name of that pizza shop?
Angel's Pizza.
Angelo's. Okay.
Yeah, Angel's Pizza and Hazlitt.
Nice.
Joe, thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you for staying a little extra with the Airey Bros. We could chat with you all night. You are an encyclopedia of information and really appreciated this conversation. So thank you for your time and thanks for all you do.
Man, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a blast meeting you, Joe. Great talking with you, picking your brain and getting some information from you. And I think we got a little bit closer, one step closer, maybe getting Jimmy back to Jersey. So I appreciate you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Joe Ahlert. Make sure you go check those links in the show note. Joe A. BJJ, Ahlert Jiu Jitsu, okay, and Ahlert BJJ, and Duncan Defense. Make sure you check all that stuff out. Make sure you let Joe know that the Airey Bros sent you. That is it for us this week, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back next week. We hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week. We will be back on Wednesday evening with Mark Delmonico. He just was named the director of cross country and track and field at Tiffin University in Ohio. So we'll be stepping back out on the cross country course, back out on the track next week. We'll see you then.